When it comes to towing, seeing is believing. That's why Chevy Truck's advanced camera technology offers up to 8 available cameras for 14 unique views, so you can focus on the view that really matters. Chevrolet, together let's drive. Learn more about Chevy Trucks at Chevy.com. Safety or driver assistance features are no substitute for the driver's responsibility to operate the vehicle in a safe manner. Read the vehicle owner's manual for important feature limitations and information.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? If you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. Choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Post-match analysis for Chat with Chaps, where it finished at Ashton Gate, Bristol City 4, Millwall 3. How'd you sum that one up? It's going to be very difficult. As a Millwall fan, it's very odd to find ourselves in a position where we've scored 5 goals in 2 league games. We're one of the top scorers in the league. We've scored 3 goals away from home, and we find ourselves with no points. The game yesterday was almost a carbon copy of the Watford game, wasn't it? You know, we gifted them a 2-0 lead for individual errors and just poor defending. Very uncharacteristic defending, which we'll talk about. We get ourselves back in the game, and then we can't see it out. And we are on the wrong end of, probably again for the neutral, a quite thrilling game. I'm sure it was. And very, very disappointing. And I think we need to sign some players. You know, that's my kind of overall sentiment. And every interview you hear from Neil Harris, even the players, you know, the Saville post-match interview, I think Honeyman in the week, there's, well, I was about to say subtle hints. It's not subtle anymore from Neil Harris. He's clearly not happy. For those of you that haven't had the opportunity to, I suggest you listen to BBC interview with Nick Godwin. I think it's pretty telling. To quote Nick, Neil Harris is beyond frustrated with the current situation. We can see it. The players can see it. Everyone can see it. Tuesday, not naming a full bench. Yesterday, 2 goalkeepers on it. It's why the question is, why are we not signing players? That's the question. I don't buy that it's because of the style of football Neil Harris plays. Does it help in the pitch to them? Probably not. But if you put the right money in front of a player, I'm sorry, that is more important. And for whatever reason, we're not able to sign players at the moment. And I genuinely think the next week is going to be huge for the club. There is clearly something that's not quite right at the moment. Again, I don't know. I'm not partial to the information. But there is clearly something not quite right, because Harris doesn't come out and do interviews like he is, where he talks about being the person that has to front all of this. He talks about the fact he doesn't know where the signings are, if there is unison between him and the rest of the football club. And as a Millwall fan, that's worrying. Neil Harris, in my opinion, whilst he's not exempt from criticism, and we'll talk about some things I think he got wrong yesterday, he is vital for this football club right now. We have had, just take a step back, we have had 2 years of tragedy. We had a big change in the summer with, you know, a lot of very senior members of the club moving on. And quite clearly, something isn't quite right with that change. Where the blame lies, again, I don't know, and I'm not really here to speculate. But ultimately, what I would say is there is a recruitment department. It is their job to go and find players that want to come to this club and will improve us. And at the moment, we haven't. The whole 10 outfield players yesterday were here last season. That's not good enough. We must be the only team in the league that is the case, that has that situation. It's just unacceptable. I think it's a huge week for the football club, because I think I feel for Neil Harris. And I can already see people on Twitter starting to say that he should go. which I find personally preposterous. I think, like I said, he's not exempt from blame, but I think he's doing the best he can with a group of players that have been, let's face it, before he came in, a team that was going down. And just because he manages to get a tune out of them for 13 minutes, that's 13 minutes, slightly longer than that, 13 games, all of a sudden we think this group is still good enough to maintain, where we are in the championship, a championship that is ever evolving, a championship that has sides like Bristol City, which with the greatest respect have been a very much mid-table side for a long time, that have gone out and spent over the last 2 summers £10 million. Yes, they've recouped some money with Conway, but that's all part of our problem. We're not developing players to sell and then spending money. So look, I could spend a whole show talking about where I think the problem lies, and maybe I should, I don't know. But in my opinion, we are at a very critical moment in this football club's existence. I really believe that. I think if we don't get the next few weeks right, I said at the start of the season, we're a bottom 8 side. We haven't signed a player for 4 weeks since then. And I've seen nothing on the pitch that changes my mind, if I'm being honest. And we could be looking at a relegation battle if we don't sort this out. And, I am naturally a bit pessimistic, admittedly, but the players need help. You could tell that they were just dead on their feet at the end. And yes, I will come on to changes I think Harris should have made. So he's not exempt from criticism. But for me, we need more bodies in. We really, really do. And I just don't know why we're not seeing it. I'm going to flick something up quickly on the screen, which I've taken for Transfermarkt. And for those of you that are not watching this on YouTube, you listen to this on a podcast. It basically shows the size of the squad, the amount of players used, the average age of the squad, and the average age of the starting 11. And let's just say the top line is we rank incredibly low for all of those. So we have the highest average age of the starting 11 this season. We also have the highest average age of squad. We've used the joint second fewest players with 16. And we have the second smallest squad in the league at 23. It's just, that is telling. That, to me, that summarizes our whole problem, that we have a small aging squad. And when you're trying to see games out for after 70 minutes and you somehow find yourselves 3-2 up, I don't blame Harris for some of the comments he's made post-match. But yes, it's gone off on a little bit of a tangent. I will now move on to kind of like the overall game, but I just wanted to sort of separate the game from the situation. And Harris has done a fantastic job, in my opinion, of bringing the club back together when we were, torn to shreds after, so much chaos that the club has had to ensue over the last few years. He did brilliantly. He kept us up last season. Is he the long-term man? I think even he knows he's not, but give him the tools at least to work with. Some of the football yesterday we played, yes, it was a bit boring and it was a little bit dire, just pumping balls up to Bradshaw at times, not the whole time. But give the man a bit of support. Give the man some players that he can actually work with, and then tell me that his tactics are terrible. It's just, it's so frustrating, because to me it's so obvious what we need. We just need to go and sort it. We really, really, really do. But yes, Neil Harris is vital, in my opinion, at this time. I'm probably rambling a little bit here. Probably still hungover. But Neil Harris is vital. Because what happens without him? What manager's going to look from the outside in and go, oh, yeah, I can do better with this group of players? Because they can't. I'm telling you, they can't. And if we're not careful, we're in for a long, hard season. But yes, after all of that optimism, let's go on and talk a bit about the game specifically. I just want to say as well, really good to, I don't do many aways for various reasons, unfortunately. But it was really good to go yesterday and have a few beers. And I spoke to a few people. So Peter and Graham, if you're listening, it was good to chat to you before the game. But yes, overall, a good weekend. And I've just got back and recording this straight off the bat. So let's talk about the team then that started. So the team was the exact same team that played last week, that lost 3-2 at home to Watford. So Lucas Jensen in goal, Ryan Leonard right back, Jake Cooper, Sean Hutchinson, Joe Bryan completed the back four. Romain Esse on the right, Duncan Watmore on the left, George Saville, Casper Denor in the middle, George Honeyman in 10 behind Tom Bradshaw. As I've already said, the bench included 2 goalkeepers, which to me, again, is another message. Didn't fill the overall squad on Tuesday, and then puts 2 goalkeepers, and then also mentions that in the post-match interview. So he's clearly making hints and isn't happy. But that was the team that started, and unfortunately for us, we didn't start very well. The first goal actually comes, and I'm going to flick this up on screen. I'm going to put some screenshots of, I think, vital moments of how goals and things happened. But we actually have the ball in the opposition half. I think we have a throw in, which is why Joe Bryan is high up the pitch. The ball comes back out. Jake Cooper heads it forwards into a bit of a no man's land, and they pick the ball up and they start to break. But as you can see on screen here, look where Sinclair Armstrong is, right? And what they're going to do now is they're just going to play the ball down the channel. Sinclair Armstrong is already on his bike, and he's going to do hutch for pace because he's Sinclair Armstrong. I'm going to talk a bit about him, but he's everything we need. I thought he was excellent yesterday. And I actually thought when they took him off, I was like, oh, here we go. This is our chance to win the game. Shows you how much I know about football. But the ball's then played down the line. Armstrong against Hutch. He's always going to be in for pace. Armstrong then puts a great ball in, but it should be dealt with. It should be dealt with. And you can see here, the ball's come across. Ryan Leonard basically scuffs his clearance. The ball should never make it to Mehmeti. But Ryan Leonard scuffs his clearance. You can see him here. What Lucas Jensen's doing as well. I don't know why he's going to ground there. Not that affects the actual goal itself. I actually don't think I blame Lucas Jensen for any of the goals yesterday. Haven't seen them all back. But this one for me is Ryan Leonard. The ball comes across goal. He's got to deal with it. He doesn't. It goes straight through to Mehmeti, who fires it into a net. And we find ourselves 1-0 down purely from just a break. And again, it just shows you what they have that we don't. That came from a simple ball down the channel with someone who is quick, athletic, has pace, held the ball up, waited for a runner, picked the pass. And yes, while we should deal with it, we don't. And they score a goal. It's basics. It's absolute basics. So that one, as much as if you listen to this, you'll know I'm a Ryan Leonard fan. To me, I have to put that down to Ryan Leonard, that one, personally. The second goal was just so frustrating. I felt that, at times in that first half, again, I don't think we played very well. I do disagree with Neil Harris that I think he said we were the better side in the first half, or that it was fairly even, but I don't think it was, if I'm honest. I think the first 25, 30 minutes, they battered us for last parts. We couldn't get the ball off them. They were passing it around with ease. And the second goal comes after a spell where they were playing it around with ease. The ball eventually gets recycled to the edge of the box, which you can see here. The ball has just left the player's feet, and you can see the ball coming in, and you can see there, you've got Ryan Leonard and Sean Hutchinson with Sinclair Armstrong in the middle of both of them. To me personally, I think this has got to go down as a Hutchie error here, because two things. First one, he could step up and potentially Armstrong's offside. Armstrong, the first thing he does, by the way, when he scores, he turn around to look to see if he is offside, which he wasn't. And he's got to deal with it. Sinclair Armstrong does what any good striker does, which is get between the fullback and the centre-back. And somehow he finds himself completely free header just outside the 6-yard area. Jensen, as I said, I don't blame him. It's a completely free header. And we find ourselves 2-0 down, again, from real basic poor defending. We were a little bit lethargic in stopping the cross coming in, admittedly. But as I say, that's because we were basically chasing our tails for the first 15 minutes. We couldn't get the ball. Credit to Bristol City. They played some really nice stuff at times, I have to say. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some things that I think Bristol City have done very well in the recruitment department that we haven't, and what we should look to emulate. But we find ourselves 2-0 down. I just want to caveat, by the way, that my analysis of this game is very much me watching it live, but heavily intoxicated, and then obviously watching the extended highlights back. So this is my recollection of the game. We didn't have a chance though to get back into the game. I don't remember many noticeable chances for them. Again, they had a lot of territory. I think they ended up on 65% possession or around that mark for the whole game. But in the first half, I think they had one other chance from Sykes. But other than that, I don't think they had created too many. But we create quite a good chance. And it's a very similar ball in to the one that they scored with Armstrong. It's whipped in by George Honeyman after some really good work, I think, from Saville. He wins the ball back in the middle of the park. Eventually makes his way at Honeyman. He puts in a good delivery. Bradshaw's nudged out of the way. Leonard's following up at the back post, and it's really unlucky. It hits the inside of the post, and that was our opportunity to potentially go and get a goal and take it to 2-1 at half time. We don't, and we close out 2-0 down, which again, very familiar feeling, wasn't it, after the Watford game. The second half, we come out, no changes, but a very different approach, I felt, in terms of football. In the first half, I felt we were very guilty, again, of, because we were quite under the cosh a lot from Bristol City, what would happen is we would eventually win the ball back, but we'd win the ball back with so many players in our own half that there wasn't many outlets. So what we were then trying to do is just lump it up to Bradshaw. And a few of the lads and I have spoken about this, and Joe made an observation which I completely agree with, which is that the aim cannot be to lump it up to Bradshaw and expect him to win these headers. The aim is for him to create a nuisance of himself so that then when the header comes back, we pick up the second ball. But the problem is that only works when you've got more bodies further up the pitch. And we did not have that in the first half of either game. So that was a big problem. In the second half, I felt we used the ball a lot better. And we end up on 64 minutes, somehow finding ourselves 3-2 up. I have to say that 20 minutes as a Millwall fan, to go from the lows of being 2-0 down and, a few shit chance to then being 3-2 up was a great feeling. And that's what football's all about. We won't talk about the feelings after when it went to 4-3, but we get a goal. And I listened to Neil Harris's post-match interview, and he praised George Honeyman, and I was like, I don't really think he affected the game that much. But watching the highlights back, he has a hand in most of our opportunities that we create, and this is one here. So the ball's played over to Honeyman, who's run the channel. He's done really well to sort of run that channel. He's drifted out to the right-hand side. This is personally where I think he should play, and SA should be in the 10. But hey, that's my opinion. Honeyman cuts it back to SA, who does fantastically. He dances through their defence. He makes it look easy. I think he beats two players, and then it's a superb finish. It is a fantastic finish, just sort of almost tricks the defence and blindsides the goalkeeper, because he sort of puts it in the reverse corner. Bradshaw does well to get out of the way, by the way, because it's going to hit him in the leg. But it's just fantastic. And Romain Esse at times yesterday was just sheer quality. 2 goals in two games for him now, and he's looking. His defensive work's improved, and then even for the penalty, he has a massive role to play. Again, Honeyman dinks it down the line for Esse, who is running the channel, which we started to use a lot more effectively, just like Bristol City did. It's quite a big pitch, Bristol City, and I felt that we didn't really use that in the first half. So Honeyman clips it down the line. Esse does really well to hold it up, hold the defender off, and he puts a super ball into Duncan Watmore, who heads it, and it's never a penalty. Having watched it back, it hits him in the chest. I don't understand what the referee's seen. Don't even really think we appeal for it. It was such a bizarre moment. Sorry, let me rewind there. Duncan Watmore doesn't appeal for it. A couple of the other players do, but it hits him in the chest. I've seen it from a few angles now. So very fortunate to get the penalty. Bradshaw steps up, puts it bottom corner, and it's 2-2. And all of a sudden, you're like, hold on a minute, we can turn this around. They're rocking here, and we did. So a long throw from Leonard. And this is just simple, a real long throw. We know he's got that in his armory. It's not dealt with. They win the first contact, but it's headed over to the sort of edge of the penalty area on the left hand side. And Duncan Watmore, superb finish, controlled volley, goes past everyone, flies into the net. I think O'Leary could have maybe done better, but in fairness, there was a lot of bodies in his way, and we find ourselves 3-2 up. And as I say, the jubilation that you feel at that moment was just outstanding. Like, to turn that game around, and we looked quite comfortable. It was such a weird change of events, and we looked comfortable. We really did. Again, just want to sort of talk about Essay here and Watmore, where as I look for positives in the start of the season, they're definitely two. I think Essay is adding end product to his game, as we're seeing now with goals. He's affecting the game. His defensive work is better. And then I think Duncan Watmore has looked outstanding this season, in fairness. He offers us direct running, obviously goals. So they are two positives. Another positive I want to give as well, jumping ahead slightly, but I'll mention it here, is Tom Lee coming on for his debut, which I think was fantastic to see. But again, we're only seeing that because there is no one else. Because Kevin Nisbet wasn't in the squad. I'm not going to speculate on rumours and things, but I think what is clear is, because it's come out too many times now, that there is some kind of discipline issue. We know that Neil Harris won't stand for that. And I think unless something is resolved quickly, I'm not sure if we'll see much more Kevin Nisbet for Millwall, which is a shame, because I don't think we've ever really seen the best of him. But ultimately, if he's not prepared to do the professional side of it, then, that's his loss. I just hope that we can recoup some of the money we spent on him if he does end up leaving us. But anyway, we are 3-2 up. Lucas Jensen then makes quite a good save from, again, just simple things. We just don't clear our lines properly. But Lucas Jensen makes a good save. The heartbreaking thing is we make some changes on 77 minutes, and then within 60 seconds, we find ourselves back level at 3-3. So the changes we made were Danny McNamara came on and went to right back. I think Ryan Leonard pushed ahead of him into midfield in like a sort of either a right central midfielder or a right midfielder. And then we also bring on Imaku. Who was it for? I've forgotten. This is what happens when you're doing this hungover. But I know Imaku came on. Was it for what more? I'm just going to quickly check. Talk amongst yourselves for a minute. Of course, it was for Watmore, and then it was Bradshaw who went off later on. So we make those two changes, and then we can see the third goal within 60 seconds. And what's hilarious, and I said this earlier, is I took off Armstrong, and I was like, what are you doing? He's run us ragged all game. I said this in my pre-match preview, by the way. I said that if Armstrong's on form, he will cause us problems, and he did. Sinclair Armstrong is everything we need. He's quick, powerful, physical, willing runner. He just causes problems. I felt when I saw him last season, he was raw for QPR. Didn't really have that much end product, but yesterday, he clearly did, because he scored and assisted. But yeah, they take him off, and what do? Oh, they bring on another £3 million striker in Mayulu, who also scored last week. And they bring on Scott Twine, who I don't know the situation there, but again, I think he's cost them another £2-3 million. It's just a golfing class in terms of that, and Harris alluded to this in his post-match. But the build-up to the third goal. So I'm just going to put this on screen here. So you can see here that the ball is played into Max Bird. And if you look, you can see Jake Cooper is kind of looking towards Max Bird, and then Hutchinson is marking Mayulu. What happens is that Max Bird lets the ball run past him and then runs into the space beyond Jake Cooper, and the ball goes to Mayulu. However, what happens there is as Max Bird then runs into the space, Cooper and Hutch have switched men. So Cooper, as you can see here, now starts running towards Mayulu, and Hutchinson therefore has to come out to Max Bird. If they had just stayed with their original men, I don't think this happens. I really, really don't think this happens. It is nice play, and I think that you have to give credit to Bristol City. They play some really good stuff at times. And this was representative of that. Max Bird, another very good player, signed last season, I think, from Derby, undisclosed fee. They signed Jason Knight, who's their captain now, for over $2 million. So I'll just touch on this quickly. What Bristol City have done, which is what we have needed to do and what we need to start doing, and hope that we can somehow continue in this bloody league for this season, is to invest money in players at the right ages to then enable them to understand how the system plays, that the manager plays, and to integrate them into the team. They're all good ages, and they've invested, £10 million over the last couple of windows. But they've also just recouped 4.5 for Tommy Conway, because they have developed him and sold him on at the right time. So this is what I'm saying. Bristol City, for me, have got their recruitment well, and I wouldn't be surprised after watching them yesterday if I think they could probably do with another defender or two. I'm still not sure on Rob Dickey. I like Zach Varner, but I'm still not 100% sure on Rob Dickey, who they also spent almost £1 million for on last summer from QPR. I think they'll be a top 10 side this year. Be interesting to hear what you think, Bristol City fans. But I really like the look of Armstrong. I really like the look of Mayulu. And then, of course, you have Scott Twine, who then goes on to score the fourth goal. They actually had a chance to score the fourth goal before this, but I think it was a deflection off of Joe Bryan that whistled past the post. But they do get their fourth goal. And it is, again, it's just poor. I'll just flick up now on screen for the fourth goal. So what you've got here is, this is just as the lad's about to cross the ball in the box. We have, right, look at that. If you include Ryan Leonard, who's at the edge there, and Denor, well, you can even include Denor. You can include Joe Bryan. There are 6 players, right, to their 3. Like, it's just, how on earth that ends up going in. And the player that scores the goal, if you look, is running he's right next to Ryan Leonard, and he runs in past behind Sean Hutchinson, and side foot half volleys into the net, which is Scott Twine. This, for me, is a communication thing. If Ryan Leonard doesn't go with him, he has to tell Hutch or someone that he's not going to, and to pick him up. What happens is Ryan Leonard doesn't go with him. No one else does. Danny Mack tries to get there, but it's too late. I don't blame Danny Mack. Again, for me, this is defensive. You could arguably blame Ryan Leonard for this. You could blame Sean Hutchinson, but it's just poor. And Harris called this out in the post-match. These goals that we're conceding are so uncharacteristic of Millwall. What is that? Does that mean that all of a sudden these have become bad defenders? What is it? And for me personally, I think it is a couple of things. I think, first of all, it is representative of the difference that Tanganga can make. Because I think not only is he better than Hutch, but he also makes Cooper a better player. Because I think Cooper was poor yesterday. And it's just representative of not having enough options. I think that Sean Hutchinson has now played 2 90-minute games when he's not even had a proper pre-season. Now, this you could again put on Neil Harris, because he has Wes Harding there. Now, even if he doesn't rate Wes Harding, if Hutch is not fit, I'm not saying I know that, by the way, but, just putting 2 and 2 together, he's not had a full pre-season. He's now expected to play 2 90 minutes against Bristol City and Watford. Why is that happening? We have Wes Harding there that could play. Do I rate Wes? I think he's okay. Do I think Sean Hutchinson's better? Yes. But if he's not fit, then he shouldn't be playing. So I think, again, this is what I'm saying around there are some things that Harris could do in terms of decision making that he's just not at the moment for whatever reason. The other thing I think Harris personally should have done is go 2 up top. Whether that is from the start or whether that is from 60 minutes onwards, or once we'd sort of was trying to see the game out, rather than just sit back, put Langstaff and Bradshaw on. But then again, I don't know if he can, because I don't know if Bradshaw can do 90 minutes anymore because he's 32, and I don't know if he can do 90 minutes to 2 games in a week, which again goes back to the fact we don't have enough options. So there's just a lot going on at the club, and we have to get recruitment right in the next few weeks. We could have also found ourselves 5-3 down. A good save from Lucas Jensen after what Jake Cooper was doing, I don't know. Routine goal kick, and Cooper just heads it up in the air and behind him, and Mayula onto it like a flash, and a good save from Lucas Jensen to stop it being 5-3. And the game ends. And look, it's so frustrating. I think yesterday there were individual errors that, despite the wider problem of recruitment and clearly some people not happy at the club, we still could have got something out of that against a side that I think are quite good. I think you have to give Bristol City some credit for some of the stuff they played yesterday. But it's worrying. It is worrying because we're only 2 games in and we're already seeing signs of players being dead out on their feet. And that's not... I don't think that's because they're not up to it. I just think we need more players in. That game yesterday for me was dying out for another central midfielder to come on to shore things up, which is probably what he tried to do with Leonard. Imagine a Malumbi or someone coming on there, going around just in the pressing in people's faces. They can't sustain that. And I don't necessarily blame the players at the minute. They need help. I probably sound like Neil Harris, but I agree with him. I really do. I think that we need to back this man. And listen, if he makes 3 or 4 signings and he gets his team and the tactics are still rubbish and we're still in the bottom 3, fine. Then we can start saying about Harris maybe not being the right man anymore. But I won't have it at the moment. I do not think you can blame him. The problems are deeper, unfortunately, for us at the moment. Anyway, I've rambled a bit today. I think it's probably a frustration and also a little bit of being a bit hungover, if I'm being completely honest. Serves me right for staying out in Potwell to the merry end. Player ratings. Lucas Jensen. He's conceded 4 goals yesterday. I actually don't think any of them were his fault, and he made 1 or 2 good saves. So initially at the game, I was like, he needs to do better with some of these goals, but actually I don't think so. Arguably, does a much better goalkeeper do better with one of them? Possibly, but I don't blame him at all. Ryan Leonard, I've said for a long time, is our best player, and I'm a massive fan of him. But yesterday he made quite a few errors, uncharacteristic of him. Is that tiredness? Is it the knock that he got against Watford? Is it just a bad game? I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and slag him off because I think he's an excellent player. But he made some mistakes yesterday. Hutchinson, to me, he's showing signs of what he is, which is a 34-year-old who was brought back to the club to be backup and more of a probably off-the-field signing. Hasn't had much of a pre-season, but is now expected to perform at the level of the Championship for 290 minutes in a week. I don't really know. So was he at fault yesterday? Yes, but I don't really know if that's his fault. And this is where it goes down to, should Harris be playing Harding or what or not? I don't know. Would love your thoughts on that. Cooper, I thought, was poor yesterday. Tanganga makes him look as such a much better player, in all honesty. So the quicker Tanganga is back, the better. He probably will be rusty as well because he's not played much football. So it'd be interesting to see how he is. I would imagine he'll come straight into the side against Hull. Joe Bryan, I don't think he was at fault for any of the goals yesterday, although a lot of them did come down his side. But I don't think I can necessarily isolate him for the fault. But I just can't. I don't know. I struggle with Joe Bryan. I want him to do well because I think he could be such almost a player that's technically above what we normally get, but there's just something there. I don't know. So we'll see on Joe Bryan. Denor, I didn't really notice him much yesterday. Still think he needs to do more. I thought Saville was the better of the two. I thought Sav actually had quite a good game. I thought he broke things up. Again, considering, he's 30, 31, 290 minutes within a week, I actually thought he was good and he was going to the very end. So love Sav, thought he was good. Romain, again, at times, he's our outlet. He's the one where Harris is saying, do you know what? Be bold, be brave, take people on. And he might get things wrong, but he's so exciting to watch. And he is a positive and a shining light in what is a really poor start to the season for the club. I thought Watmore, again, was good, industrious. I quite like Watmore. But it would be nice, again, as much as I will praise Watmore, it'd be nice, again, to have other options and to say to Duncan, go full pelt for 70 minutes because we know we can take you off. Imaku came on. Should he have started Imaku? Possibly. But I think he didn't really impact the game when he did come on. And I think that, again, that's just showing you that Neil Harris, at the moment, as a starter, prefers SA. And as I've said this before, there is no way in the league he starts SA and Imaku. He just won't, because I don't think he trusts them both enough to do the defensive work. And you can sit there and go, okay, we shouldn't be worried about that, but we should be, because quite clearly we need more of it because we've conceded 7 goals. Honeyman, is that 390 minutes in a week? The guy's engine is outstanding. He did look tired towards the end of the game, and I don't blame him. Do I want him in a 10? No, I don't. Can I see what he brings? Yes. Was he involved in some of our better moments yesterday? Yes. So I thought overall Honeyman was pretty good. Bradshaw was okay. We just need someone that can run the channels a bit more. Again, surprising that Langstaff, is he not fit, or does Harris not favour him to start? I don't know. Harris has come out in an interview and said he's trying to teach him to be a Millwall number 9, which, does that mean that Harris wasn't involved in his signing? It's a bit of an odd thing to say if it's a player that you've wanted to sign for a while. So I don't know. There is clearly something bigger going on at the club. We've got an important couple of weeks coming up with a transfer window, and I really think it could define our season. So to summarise, I think it was a good game for the neutral. Positives are we scored 3 goals. I think SA's looking good. Great for Lee to come on. I think Watmore's looking good. But they need help. And I think if we don't get the checkbook out and we don't really start to add quality additions in the final third and also add a little bit of extra support at the back, I think we could be in for a long, hard season. And that pains me to say that. It really does. But yes, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening. Maybe a little bit waffly today, but it was tough. It was tough to summarise. And as I say, I think you can focus too much on, yes, there was a lot of individual errors yesterday, and yes, they need to be sorted. But taking a step back, I think we have a bigger problem, which is, just the state we find ourselves in at the moment. And I just hope over the next few weeks we really see the club pulling together and we bring in those additions that we desperately need, and we can kick on. But hey, it's the Championship, and today, after winning 4-0 last week against Plymouth, Sheffield Wednesday got battered 4-0 at Sunderland. So it's a topsy-turvy league. I'm sure there'll be many ups and downs before the end of the season. As always, thank you so much for listening. Really do appreciate it. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We are on, I think, 818 subscribers. So we're 182 away from, look at that for mental maths, 182 away from the goal of 1,000, which will enable us to start, making money for Cancer Research UK, which is the goal and what we want to do here. So thank you for listening. Please do like, share, subscribe, all that kind of jazz. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.